Welcome! If you're watching this video, it must mean that your survey contains some questions from the PSS-10 inventory. We are going to be covering very quickly the instructions as to how to compute your variable score for this survey, or for this scale. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is I am going to be going to my Canvas website. I'm going to be going to the assignments. I'm going to be visiting once again the lab assignment number 3 that you might be familiar with, because this is where everything started. This is where we design our surveys. So if you go here to the instruction file and you go all the way down, you will find the page where I provided you with access to the different inventories that we suggested you could use for your variable one. So here you have the materials for the PSS perceived stress scale. I also give you access to a Google Drive. I'm going to be using that for now. So in this Google Drive, we have one folder for each of the inventories we recommended. We're going to be visiting the PSS-10 folder. We're going to be visiting the scale. And in here, we're going to find not only the questions that you could have used from the PSS-10 scale, but also we are going to be finding here instructions as to how to compute a score. So the scoring instruction says that PSS scores are obtained by first reversing certain responses. Which ones? Well, the responses to the 4 positively stated items. So those are items 4, 5, 7, and 8. If you have any questions about how to do this, please do refer to the past video about how to reverse code questions. Identify these questions on your survey, reverse them. And then just sum in across all the scale items. So wow, that sounds very easy. So I'm going to go back to my Google Drive. Let me move to the one linked to my UCI email address. And in here, I'm going to go to my downloads folder, and I'm going to be loading in the toy dataset that I have prepared for the perceived stress scale. So I'm going to be taking this and moving it here. By the way, if you did include some questions from the PSS scale, which I'm going to open now, this is the actual data set that you should be working on for the entirety of today's lab section. For the remaining steps, so both the reverse coded questions and all the steps after this one, I'm going to be working with the standard toy data set, just because that's kind of like a neutral ground for everyone, but you should be using this particular data set if your survey includes questions from the PSS inventory. So what I'm going to be doing now, well, as you can see here, this is the toy data set just as you download it from Canvas. So it still contains labels instead of numeric values. This survey was designed by me. It was generated randomly. So I generated random responses for each of the questions here, and I made it so that the answers that I observed for the PSS scale provided values that were cohesive with this scale. So I have values from in the scale from 0 to 4, and I have just kept the labels. So first of all, let me transform this back into numeric values. This will take me literally 1 second. Alrighty, and just like that, we have gone back from our labeled responses back into our numeric values. Another thing that you might notice might be different from the last couple of frames in this video is that I have now do something that should already be reflected in the spreadsheets that you downloaded from Canvas. And that is that I have changed here the labels or the column names for the questions that are allegedly or that are pretended to be taken from the PSS scale. So I'm not even going to paste the whole content of the questions, even though that's what you would be seeing on your actual data set. I'm here just kind of like pretend to indicate that this is the first question from the perceived stress scale, the second question from the perceived stress scale, third question, fourth question. And since my fourth question is reverse coded, I also have gone now and added a new column where I have already done my reverse coding using my ifs formula on Excel. Again, if this is unfamiliar to you, please review the reverse coded video. And it's my 5th perceived stress scale question. Now, before we start doing any computation for the variable score, the very first thing we might want to do is to remove all the filler questions. Now, filler questions in these toy sets are clearly identified as such with this name here. In your case, when you actually work with your data file, again, here on the column names, you will have the actual content of each question. So you will have to identify these filler questions by means of using the knowledge you have as your own survey creator. So I suggest that the first thing we do is you just identify where those filler questions are and just and just remove them because they are just taking space. We are not going to be using them, and they are just kind of like taking a little bit of space away from our visualization, from our visual field. So I have removed all of my filler questions, and now I have only my 10 questions. One of them is already reverse coded, so that I have 5 questions from my perceived stress scale and 5 questions from my variable 2. So now I'm going to continue following the instructions, and I'm gonna say that now that I have already reverse coded my questions, so in this case I had only been working with item 4. It might be that in your actual survey you have also questions 5, 7, and 8. We don't know that. And then we just sum across all scale items. So that is super easy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our data set. We're going to go to the last column. We're going to add a new column name, a new variable name, to indicate that this is going to be the PSS score for each participant. And we're going to be using our Excel formula that we're going to call by clicking here the equal sign. We're going to call our sum function. We're going to open parentheses, and we're going to specify the location of all the answers that this given participant, because I am currently on row number 2 that corresponds to this participant. So I'm going to be summing the responses that this participant gave to all the questions from the PSS scale. So I'm going to be summing the response or the number that I have on column G, row 2. So there is the first response to our first question from the PSS scale. Then I'm going to sum to that the value that I have on column I, row 2. So that is the second question. Then column J, value 2. That is the third PSS question. Then when I go to the fourth question, which is technically located in column L, I am instead going to be using the already reverse coded values, so M2. And then I go to the final question from my PSS scale that I have here, so N2. So notice here how I have already highlighted these values. I'm going to be summing across them. I close my parentheses to indicate I'm done. I hit enter, and I'm automatically going to be given this prompt to autofill. You can click here and then it will be autofill. If you happen to accidentally click somewhere else, don't panic. You can just go back to this formula that contains this cell that contains the formula. Click here on the bottom right and just scroll down like this, and this is automatically going to be applied to the remaining questions. And just like that, you're able to obtain a given perceived stress scale score for each of my individual participants by mixing together the information they gave you to the different questions, this one, the reverse coded one, that you included for this scale. So that is all for this video. Just make sure to remember to check whether you included any of the given reverse coded questions and which one are they. So that is all for this video. See you on the next step.